wanting to sleep right now, so we're gonna try to film this.
She hasn't stopped eating since.
He's got the magic touch. He has the magic touch. We are so excited to share Highland's birth story with you guys. To our daughter in the future, it gets me emotional. Love you. We love how you came into this world. It was totally a God story. Throughout the 6 years that we tried for you, then IVF, and then waiting for you, and even your birth story that we're about to share, it was incredible, even with what we went through. So we loved our home birth experience. We don't regret that at all. We did have emergency happen, but that can happen in any setting, and so we're just excited to share with you guys kind of what took place and how God showed up in her birth story. So, okay, so Friday, she was born on a Thursday. The Friday before is when I went dark, as we call it, because Friday we went to a gender reveal party. I wasn't feeling great. I started feeling a little bit nauseous and just dehydrated, and that night contractions started. Monday,
Tuesday was like super intense, like pretty much from the beginning. She was having like heavy contractions. I
would argue that my contractions, like from the first one that I had until the end, as far as intensity and pain level, I think they were pretty much the same. Like it was literally a flat line, same intensity level. It would just change.
Tough. Like every contraction, she had to stand up out of bed. I was like hands on deck, like putting pressure on her hips to just help the pain, and during that time she was nauseous where she couldn't really eat or hardly drink, and so we were up for 2 full nights because we kept being told that the contractions will escalate to where you won't get a break and it'll be back to back, and
that's when the midwife should come.
Yeah, so we kept waiting and waiting, and it was just like kind of prolonging.
Well, Tuesday night was probably one of the hardest nights because it got to the point where I couldn't look at my app on my phone anymore for the contractions. They were just so intense and so painful that I basically got in our tub here. So they hadn't set up the birth pool yet, but we have a tub. So I got in the tub, warm water, because my water hadn't broken, and Josh slept on the floor right beside me, doing the contractions and then coaching me through my breathing pretty much because I was in so much pain.
The midwife, she was awesome, and she was kind of just coaching us like she's got to sink into the contractions. You know, try not to track them on the app, like Josh, you try and do that just so she can focus. And so we started doing that, and I was kind of just timing him off her breathing, and the whole time, like, you did a great job just breathing through him, and
I could not have done it without him though. I think that was probably one of my favorite moments of our birth story, was looking over to him and seeing him like literally with a pillow trying to sleep between contractions with me on the floor as he was coaching me, and just being like, wow, we're in this together, we're teammates here.
Yeah, and that was, you know, a big part of our prayer in doing home birth, was to do it in the comfort of our home, but just to have it honoring God and to be in a home setting, playing worship music, praying, was something that we definitely valued. And kind of, you know, to backtrack even further, like before we even knew about doing a home birth, we had a bunch of people on Island here, some of our friends that had done it and just raved about it, and they were like, you gotta look into this. So we were like,
and they had all used the same midwife, so it was kind of just like a no-brainer, like God had opened the doors for us.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, I didn't know a thing about home birth. So we started to like look into research, watch documentaries, and we met with a midwife and just had a total peace about everything. We were like, this is awesome. Like God is gonna be in and through this, and it's gonna be glorifying to Him.
Anyway, back to the process of birth. So that was Tuesday night. Wednesday they came over, they brought everything over. So I was kind of like, oh, maybe we're getting closer. But we weren't. They left. They went and they carried on with their day because I wasn't, you know, in quote unquote active labor. Right. Wednesday night was when you and I had like a big confrontation because I was like, I'm not doing another night of this, because that was after Tuesday night, and we were in our bathroom Wednesday night, and the midwife and the assistant came back after work, so it was the evening. But they weren't really doing, you know, they were just kind of monitoring us and watching us and hanging back. And they were telling him to be hands off. because they wanted my labor to progress. And I told Josh, I was like, you need to ask them what the next steps are to transfer to the hospital, because I am done.
Yeah.
I am not doing this anymore.
At that point, I was like, I don't blame her. Like, this is miserable.
He was such a saint to deal with me at that point, because I was so done. And the midwife, your conversation with her was pretty much gave us a couple of hoops to jump through before.
Yeah, when I called her, just like court's tapping out, you know, like she needs to be done with it and whatever. And so I was expecting our midwife to be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
It's your choice.
Your choice, whatever. And she was just like, okay, these are some steps we're gonna take to try and move things along. And so she gave us 3 steps. You know.
The first was an anti-nausea pill, so they wanted me to try to eat a little bit. So that stopped contractions, not stopped, but like for about an hour, hour and a half, I had a window where I felt normal enough where I could eat and I could drink, and I did. And then like half an hour after that window, I threw it all up. So that was frustrating.
And by eating, it was like a bite of toast.
Yeah.
Like she didn't eat it.
Was not eating much. And then the second thing was, okay, my assistant is just gonna walk you through some side lying hip exercises because your hips are really tight, the baby's not dropping enough. And so then she led me through, I did like 4, I held the pose through like 3 to 4 contractions on each side, and that was so incredibly painful. But I do feel like it made a big difference. And then I went and threw up after that too. So that was the second thing.
I was shocked you did that, so I was like, wow, I don't know how she's doing it.
Because I wouldn't let him lead me through it. Like he kept trying to over the course of the days, and I don't know, I just felt like I was pushing back. And then the third thing was she came back over and she put some stuff in the pool, the birth pool. They filled that up.
Well, because you thought your water broke.
Yes, we thought my water had broken. So they were like, you need to stay out of the water until it's time. But that was the only thing that was helping me. So I wanted to get back in the water, and they were like, okay, we're gonna put something in there so that it's clean and safe for you and baby. So I got back in the water late Wednesday night after those other 2 steps. And in my head, Josh was relaying this to me, this information from our midwife. And in my head, I convinced myself if I go through these steps, then they'll let me go to the hospital. And if it doesn't work, they'll let me go to the hospital. So I was kind of just like, get through it, get through it, get through it. And then Josh you were trying to explain to me what she had said about transferring to the hospital.
Yeah, she was kind of just saying like, it's not, you go to the hospital when you have a baby and it's pain-free and all that.
You get an epidural and all of a sudden it's all better.
So she kind of just walked through us the reality of like what could happen at hospital, and so.
And like her history with her clients that have transferred, most of them ending in C-section. That was something that we did not want unless it was an emergency. So that was a dose of reality for me too, to like stay the course, stay in it.
And I think that was the real turning point for you when she started kind of taking the steps forward to be active, to progress. That's when you really progressed. And then
I remember praying, like after you had communicated that to me and we had kind of like that just friction between us, because I was like, no, take me to the hospital now. And he was like, we're gonna do these things first. Because they knew what I wanted ultimately. I leaned over the counter and I just remember praying like, Lord, her middle name is IKAIA. It means that you deliver, like you need to deliver this baby tonight. I can't do this. So please bring this baby tonight. I got in the water, and about 1 o'clock, you guys wrote down that my water actually did break.
Was it 1?
I think so. Or like an hour or 2 before we had her her at 2. That was wild, so loud, it was shocking to me. I think I was kind of just in the zone at that point.
I asked to get in the tub with you, and it was like soon after that, like you were pushing.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that they had a lot of conversations about is they were trying to figure out where I was at in labor, because it had been so many days, but nothing was changing. Like I wasn't having back-to-back contractions. I never had a transition. I never had, full-on contractions until she came. It was literally 5 minutes apart.
So we were like, maybe she's further along in this labor than we think, which you were.
Yeah. And I think I was not very loud or anything like that. So you guys were even saying like,
She has a high pain tolerance, like that's what they both said.
Yeah, so they didn't really know, but eventually we all figured it out. We were all in the tub, he got in the tub, and I got to try all different positions, which was amazing. Like, that was such a gift. I got to try, like, I would push on all fours, I would push with one leg up, one leg back, I would lean against him, and I think that really helped us to have, like, really quick, from water breaking to her coming out. I feel like it was pretty fast.
Yeah. And it was nice, like, you still got the breaks between contractions.
Yeah, I would lean against him, just like out.
Soon after that, like, our midwife had the headlamp on and she was looking, and
there was the head.
She was like, okay, Josh, come around here and catch the baby. And I was like, oh shoot. It came out, man, that was the moment. I'll never forget it. It was special. I was definitely weeping. Like, I'll never forget, she came out, her eyes were just wide open, like so alert. She was looking around, like recognized our voices, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
It was wild. So right after her birth, the placenta, I had like contractions immediately, and I thought that the placenta would be a lot easier. It was not. It felt like a second labor, like truly had contractions. I had to hand Highland off to Josh because I needed to focus on pushing. So a couple pushes, the placenta comes out. We were both shocked at how big, like we were just like, whoa, that's a placenta.
Yeah, and we were in the pool still, so there was a lot of blood.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on.
So the midwife and assistant were focused on me. I hadn't eaten in a while. I was leaning against the back of the birth tub. Josh was holding Highland. And then I was like, I had some ringing in my ears. And I was like, guys, I don't really feel very good. And I kind of felt that like, I'm gonna pass out feeling. And thankfully I said that because that was the trigger for them to start things before it got too bad. They didn't know that I was hemorrhaging at the time when I said that, so they had prepped an IV, they gave me a shot of Pitocin, and then our midwife went beast mode for us.
Well, you passed out.
Yeah, tell them that.
Oh, it was the scariest moment. Like, we went from, that was probably 15 minutes later, so, you know, just the best moment of our life to like the scariest moment. Court's eyes like rolled to the back of her head, and well, before that, you were just like looking around. I could tell that she was like about to pass out, and then her body went all stiff, and I thought she was going in seizure. Like, it was the scariest thing. And at that point, our midwife just went like beast mode, and she was just on it. She was like, you know, call 911 just in case what she did like didn't work. We'd have an ambulance ready to go. But she takes a chunk, like takes a bite out of the placenta, puts it in her mouth. And like soon after that, like you came to, and she was doing all the things.
Well, before I came to, they were like, Josh, hand Highland over to the assistant.
Yeah.
You need to pick her up out of the birth
Had
tub.
to pick her up out of the
like
tub.
I was fully out, so like that was a lot of weight.
Put her on the bed, lift her, like elevate her legs, you know.
They put the oxygen on me.
Yeah.
They had an IV running.
And they were amazing. Like, they had
everything that they needed.
They were on it. And so it was really scary because the ambulance came to the door, and at this point she was stable, and so our midwife was like, just call them off, like tell them it was a false alarm, we're good. And I was at the door like, are you sure we're good? Because she don't look good.
Yeah.
And so, but thankfully looking back, we did that because
it was the right decision.
You know, we got to spend time with the baby and just with each other, and yeah.
Yeah. From my perspective, I obviously didn't know all of this was happening. I just remember, the last thing I remember was telling them I didn't feel good. I remember hearing things. Like, I definitely heard her say, let's call 911, and I was like, that's weird. Why would
they had you singing happy birthday.
They did have me singing happy birthday. I don't remember singing, but I remember them asking me to sing, and I was like, wow, that's so silly. Like, I guess it's Highland's birthday. And then...
Yeah, it was a scary, like, I remember before we got you out of the tub, I was holding Highland in one hand and like holding Court's head, like trying to keep her conscious.
Yeah.
And oh, it was wild, but.
Yeah, it was alarming. It has only happened like twice in our midwife's experience. So it's not something that happens frequently. Our case was obviously unique. A lot played into it. There was the whole week, like the whole few days of me not eating, me not drinking, going into active delivery and losing all this blood with 0 in my system. But I think that's one of the coolest things about this story is that God had put it on my heart, you know, these 9 months to have an active and healthy and fit pregnancy. And
but she did really well. Like, she was staying active throughout. Like, she would do her little workout and then we would go for a walk pretty much every day. She was eating healthy for the most part, and I was impressed. I was kind of impressed.
Yeah.
She was good.
We had conversations where he was like, I thought you'd be bigger.
Realistic expectations.
So funny. Real life. But our midwife took my blood right after to make sure, like, we had a baseline for where everything was at. And she was like, your iron is not even that low for someone who lost so much blood. And that has to do to the credit of your, you know, your workout programs, your nutrition, all of that active and healthy living that you were doing for 9 months. Like, that literally saved your life. Because there were, you know, women that she's worked with whose blood sugar and iron and all that is already on the lower end. So you go through a trauma like that and you're going to, it's not going to be the same outcome. So for us, it was just so sobering, and for me as a coach, like, to just be like, wow, this lifestyle that I started years ago saved our lives. Like, it allowed me to have a healthy baby. It allowed me to have my body go through that trauma. But I think for us, going through that was obviously very traumatic, and I think the recovery after that was really challenging for us.
Yeah. I mean, it was really cool. Just like that night, our midwife was just amazing. Like, she stayed around the whole night, clean up the place. Obviously, she had to stitch Courtney up, and
I have to share this because I was just so proud. Remember, you guys, I shared a video about like how I'm working to not tear. I did not tear at all during labor and delivery. I did tear because when she was trying to save my life, she had one hand like deep in my stomach here, and then one hand she put inside of me to stop the hemorrhaging and to contract the uterus to close. And that, when she did that, I did tear from her going back in there. Just a little bit proud of that because that was a goal of ours, and I was really hopeful, you know, with an unmedicated birth, you know, that's just so cool.
A midwife, she stayed around like the whole day, like cleaning out the place. Like, she put us in bed, we got to sleep. Like, she was doing our laundry.
Bringing us food.
Yeah, and like teaching you how to like breastfeed, doing all the things. Like, that
walking me through how to take care of everything downstairs because I was like, I don't know what just happened.
And that was cool just because we got to enjoy that time. Like, it was so peaceful. You know, that was really enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know?
And, you know, the recovery after, I think neither of us were really, we knew hemorrhaging was an option, like, for, it's a possibility that can happen, but I guess we didn't really think it would happen to us. And then what that meant afterwards, I was on strict bed rest.
Yeah, she was on bed rest for at least 3 days. Like, had to like go to the bathroom in bed basically.
Josh was like taking care
so that was tough for me, you know, as well. Like, I had to take care of her and make sure she wouldn't pass out again. Take care of Highland. Or that
bleeding would start again.
Yeah, so
then we're trying to figure out how to feed a newborn, and he's trying to figure out where is everything in the nursery that I put together. You know, there's so many pieces of it that
we were not ready for.
But the Lord saw us through that. And there's even a couple days after everything, I was crying, holding her, and Josh was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I just can't imagine that. Like, I could not be here. Like, that was a possibility with everything that had happened to us, to me. And just like staring at this like answer to prayer after 6 years of trying, like, that just, it was sobering. So I don't know that we're ready to talk about number 2, but
one at a time.
But we loved our experience outside of the emergency that happened. It was so perfect and beautiful.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. I was definitely on a high the first couple of days. Like, I'm a dad. Like, this is crazy.
So that's our first story.
That's it.
That's part of Little Highland's story. It was wild and crazy. the best and most miserable week of my life.
Yeah, and thank you guys for praying as well, like, and supporting us. And this meal train has just been such a blessing. You guys just, like, the love has been overwhelming. Like,
yeah, we finally, like, after everything, we were able to go through so many text messages. I hadn't looked at my phone all week. I had messages from people who were literally like, I just thought of you, and I started praying during the time that our emergency was happening. So, you know, it was such a gift to be able to be held up by the, you know, the body of Christ, and then for us to, like, look at our decision to work with our midwife, who was totally God's hands and feet in saving us. Like, she knew exactly what to do, and she took care of it. And so it just gave us so much peace that it was exactly how it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like we learned so much for sure going through that. But always gotta do things the hard way, I guess.
That's right.
But this is our little miracle, and it was wild and crazy, and we're still trying to figure it out. But if you guys have questions, we're gonna do a video that's specifically home birth Q&A, because you guys had some incredible questions when I put up the little box on my Instagram stories. But if you guys do have questions you want to add, or just things you want to share, please comment those below. We would love to just interact with you guys and hear from you. Thank you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hang out and see more of our videos, and we will catch you later.
Love you guys.